Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God had you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Balhamas. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. Josh, I was thinking about this because yesterday I was talking to somebody who was just sharing some encouraging words about the podcast.
Yeah.
And he said, and then I stumbled across you guys on YouTube. He didn't realize.
People didn't know they could watch?
Yeah. So if you're only listening, you're missing out on half the fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're missing out on the fact that Kyle is dressed to the nines today, apparently.
Well, to the 8.5. 8.5.
I regret wearing a hat now.
Although I did. Okay. So, little, get to know us moment. I never used to iron my stuff. Never used to iron my stuff.
Did you at least have like the non-iron kind of like shirts?
Nope.
You don't have to?
Nope. Okay. Because let's be honest, when we were growing up, there wasn't really that stuff.
I'm not that old. So.
I had a camp director's wife when I was at camp, and I was a part of the singing group that sang up front, that said, Kyle, anytime your group is singing, bring me your pants the night before and I will iron them for you. Like, it was bad because I'm just like, whatever, Then I got into being a missionary and my boss was like hyper, like, iron your stuff. Now here's the interesting little sidestep. First year Bible Institute, Kyle had an RA that ironed his socks, and he didn't iron my socks, but he ironed his socks and his underwear. I had another boss that ironed his jeans. Wow. And so this boss, when I became a missionary with local church ministries, shout out to local church ministries or youth ministries. Yeah. He would be like, I iron all my own stuff. And so I started ironing all my own things. Yeah. And to this day, it's a rare occasion that my wife irons for me. Well, I iron my own stuff. Wow. It's just because I'm like, I think I've, we talked about this, the whole pendulum swing. I think I've swung the pendulum to the other side. It's like, I know how I want it. And, honestly, it's one less thing my wife has to do. My wife does so much for me.
Of course. And it's like that Seinfeld thing, you actually like take the pants and then hang them over it so they stay pleated and everything. Do you go that far?
I don't. So I do have some pants that are pleated. Okay. I'm not a big fan of the pleat, so I kind of actually iron the pleat out. It's weird. But
just baggy chinos.
Actually, just baggy shorts. That's all. It's all really long shorts. Remember those 90s pants, the jeans that were literally like you could fit like a 3-gallon sack, like in the pant leg. Yeah.
Those are back in style now.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Everything comes full circle.
Cycles, man. Cycles.
Everything comes full circle.
But so if you're watching today, hey, I'm speaking for one of our more swanky chapels, and so I thought I'd dress up.
And I am not. And so
some of you are dressed to the 8.5s, sitting listening to this thing in your pajamas still. Yeah.
Or actually, I listened to an episode this morning of our podcast, and while I was listening, just to make sure that like how things are going, I like to listen from a third party kind of after we finish editing. And aside from wherever you're listening, I listen in my car, but when you said close your eyes at one point, and I did. I just want to know that I have solidarity, man.
Okay, hey, listen, if you are driving the car and we say close your eyes, you don't need to, all right? But
that would have been good.
Again, little raw get to know us moment. When you are in the car, and somebody says, hey, let's pray, or you say, let's pray. Do you have that moment where you're like, you go to close your eyes or you close because you're just so natural to?
No, I know to keep my eyes open. I was almost in a car accident the other day, actually. And I definitely said some prayers afterwards and called my wife and everything, but I kept my eyes open the entire time after that, just good practice.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. There are sometimes literally I'll be like, I will instinctively go to close my eyes and I'm like, nope, can't do that.
That's funny.
That. So,
those are all just fun things to talk about. Fun conversations.
Fun part of life, which here's the deal. There are some times that we act like, okay, there's fun and then there's ministry. I actually have a buddy of mine that we kind of joke because he was a director at that time. I was not a director, but we would joke about how sometimes people in ministry would be like, I don't have time for fellowship right now. I'm in ministry. There's ministry time and there's fellowship time, which essentially they were saying there's fun time and there's ministry time. Now, it's not that you can't have fun in ministry, but it's like, okay, this is like serious fun. Or this, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's how I live my life. Like, Josh, what do you think, segue, what do you think about fun in ministry?
Man, so trying to balance out fun and ministry, it's first you have to ask the question, why should we have fun in ministry at all? So, you know, we always had the saying at camp when I was working up in New York, when I was a student and everything, they'd always say, we break down walls to build up lives. And so what they mean by that is just, we do fun things. We have fun events. We do loud concerts. We do lots of lights. We do all these crazy things so that we have an opportunity and we gain the permission. Is that a good word for it? We gain the permission. We gain the opportunity to present the truth.
Well, and it's way better than breaking down lives to build up walls.
That would be the exact opposite of what we need to accomplish. Absolutely.
But okay. So again, you're saying we're breaking down walls. Let me ask you, in the scope of a ministry event or in the scope of a ministry night, what are things that you think we do to break down those walls?
I think if you're watching, you saw that he hit the arm. If you're listening, you heard that he hit the arm. So,
see, again, that's the difference.
We bring it back.
Yeah, there we go.
So the question was,
what are things that you think we do intentionally choose to do to break down those walls?
All right. So let's take a youth night into account here as an example.
Close your eyes unless you're driving.
Close your eyes unless you're driving. Like the way we start a youth group is we have half an hour before youth group even starts, technically, where kids are kind of filtering in.
Okay.
And I started bringing my Switch to youth group now. And so we got some extra controllers at youth group. And so we just we have fun hanging out. And we're not talking about anything aside from life. Like, you know, I have a kid who will come up and talk to me about what's going on in school, but I'm not going up to him and intentionally having a conversation. We're just playing the Switch, and I'm beating him in Smash Bros, obviously.
Good job. Yeah. Good job.
And but we're just having natural conversation. So sometimes that's what fun looks like. Then we have an intentional game time. You know, that's kind of an organized fun time.
All right, pause for a second.
Okay.
When you guys play your games, okay, and if you're listening or if you're watching, I want you to answer this question. Okay, Josh, I want you to answer this question.
I'll do my best.
Where are the leaders?
They're not in the way, because remember we talked about, you told me there's the 7 sins of a game.
Yeah.
So the youth leaders are actually, we played this game, it was called Birdie and the Perch.
I love Birdie and the Perch.
We made some rules. We kind of changed some rules around ourselves, and we ended up doing some different things. We actually started the game, and I made up a song, and they had to sing a song and hold hands and go in a circle.
What's the song?
And it was, we're animals in the jungle, and we're all great friends. And I just made him sing it. At one point, I had him sing it
just that line again and again and again?
I had him sing it for 30, 40 seconds.
How did it go? Come on. How did it?
We're animals in the jungle, and we're all great friends. And they just kept doing it and repeat.
That's amazing.
And one of the kids, unfortunately, smacked heads with another kid on the first Birdie and the Perch. Which, if you never played Birdie and the Perch, the goal is that you have to get to your partner. You're in 2 circles going in a circle, and you have to get to your partner then and accomplish a goal. So if it's Birdie and the Perch, one of you pretends to be the perch, the other one has to pretend to be a bird.
Do you make him make the bird sound?
Oh yeah, you have to yell caw caw.
Because it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, but even in that, Josh, part of my question is where are the leaders? Because
that was the end of the story. I'm sorry.
Oh,
that was my fault. I let the story go too long.
I fell asleep.
You fell asleep. Not while you're driving.
No, praise God.
So anyway, one of the kids hurt himself, and so the youth pastor then jumped in and took that kid's spot in the game. And so the answer is, I'm there. That was a very short version, and Dylan's laughing at me because the kid hurt himself and jumped in. The kid's fine. He's fine. But it ended up swelling up really bad the next day. His mom sent me a picture. It felt really bad.
Wow.
Anyway.
She blamed you.
No. It's all good. It's all good. But so Matt jumps in and he's playing the game with the students, and then I'm there calling out the game and saying who won and who's out, and so we're involved.
What's so hard is a lot of times when we go to do fun stuff, you have this, again, to go back to that pendulum swing.
Yeah.
You've got 2 ends of the spectrum of one, it's all dominated by the leaders. It's like whenever we go to play camp games, I have to tell my counselors, listen, week 1, week 2, you might not really know the games, but week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, the games. I need you to find this fine line between you're playing because you want to have fun and you want to be involved and you over dominating and running the game. If it's a riddle game and we happen to use the same riddle, don't answer it the 2nd week or the 4th week or the 5th week just to get it done. You're stealing the fun from your kids.
Yeah.
But then the other end of the pendulum swing is I'm not involved at all. And unfortunately, there are a lot of times that I show up to a youth ministry event or a youth ministry night where we go to play games and the leaders are all sitting in the back. The leaders are not participating in the games.
Yeah. That's no good.
And they come up with every excuse. And isn't it interesting? That doesn't build relationships with people.
No, and if our entire intention of having fun is to break down walls and build up lives, if that's the entire intention of our fun and we're not involved with that, how are we going to have those kind of connections?
Well, no, exactly. And so I think the first question that we've already answered, but let me ask you the question, and may sound like a dumb one, or obvious, can ministry be fun?
Absolutely. It has to be, I think.
So follow question, should ministry fun?
Should ministry be fun?
Yes.
I already said, I think it has to be. I think you can't just have, because I mean, we even talked before this episode while we were kind of prepping a little bit. You've heard stories of people who come in and say like, hey, you know, what would you say? Differentiating between like fellowship and ministry.
Yeah.
And I think they have to go hand in hand. We have to be having fun. We have to be building relationship. We have to be doing all those things so that we gain the right, maybe the permission, the opportunity to even share the truth.
Okay. So let me ask you another question. Do you think Jesus was fun?
I think so. Here's something I always, even listening to some of the stories, we always, we kind of get this prestige when we read the Bible. Sometimes we kind of like read it, maybe more monotone, or we read it as like it's a story, and it's a true story. And I think that, Jesus, in a respectful way with his disciples, all had great like camaraderie, and they had great fun together. And I can't imagine, especially spending 3 years in ministry together like that the entire time was like that the disciples didn't feel comfortable with Jesus. They were his friend.
Okay. So one of my phrases that I borrowed from my friend, Gail Chiafalo. She's the pastor's wife, but Pete and Gail Chiafalo well, Pete was the pastor, but Gail's the pastor's wife, but she led the worship ministry. And so she used to say this all the time. And so because originality is the ability to forget where you got things from. Not to make this original with me, Gail used to say all the time, I'm putting my mercy umbrella up. Okay. So covered in a little bit of mercy. Give me a second here. We all know that text is the worst form of communication.
Yeah.
Because we read it and we put whatever inflection that we want to. And I think sometimes we can do that to the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can create this view and this message of Jesus and this connection with Jesus that Jesus was all serious all the time. Listen, when Jesus was constantly looking and he said, hey, listen, let the little children come to me. Little children don't want to be around somebody that's not fun.
No, you're right. Absolutely, you're right.
Little children don't want to be around somebody that's not going to joke with them. And Jesus actually kind of gets like, the disciples are like, no, leave him alone. Because I think possibly even in that, the disciples sometimes view Jesus in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Of no, he's at the work. He's at and Jesus is like, no, you've missed it. Unless you come like one of these, I don't think he was saying be immature.
Yeah.
I don't think he was saying be small-minded.
Yeah.
I think he was just saying be real and you look at a kid and man, kids mess up and they move on and they have fun and they laugh and they love to laugh. It breaks my heart when I run into a little child who doesn't enjoy to laugh. Now, I'm not saying if you were a kid and you're like, well, I was just a serious kid growing up, and I have a serious kid growing up. That's fine.
Yeah.
But guess what? Everybody still loves to have fun in a certain way.
Yeah.
And we all should be having fun.
Yeah. And that's actually, that brought me to another thing I was thinking of when I was preparing for this a little bit of like, imagine that all of your kids in your youth group, like a lot of my kids in my youth group, they love paintball and airsoft and they're like very active. But imagine that they hate board games, and maybe they do. I've never actually asked them if they hate board games. Imagine my entire youth group hates board games. And I'm like, hey guys, been talking with Matt. We're going to have this great event. And we're going to have everybody come in, and all we're going to do is play board games.
Chess.
We're
24 hours a day.
Yeah, we're playing chess for 7 hours. It's going to be an all-nighter, or instead, we have where I bring in my Switch. I have a couple buddies bring in a couple Switches. We borrow some TVs, and we have a big gaming tournament. Okay, which one of those two is going to be more effective for my youth group? The latter.
Hopefully both, but yes. Yeah. But if your kids don't like games, absolutely the latter.
Yeah, and maybe the board games is a bad example.
No, it's a good example.
I think it's important that we pick the fun, and we're intentional that we pick fun that is not pick fun at kids. We pick fun events, or we pick fun activities that are for the people that we know, and we don't know them unless we get to know them.
Well, and that goes back to what we've been talking about, this whole idea of, are you a student of your students?
Yeah.
Are you a student of your leaders?
Yeah.
I remember when I was out in Texas, and I remember talking to a guy that was like, my kids don't like playing games in youth group. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Now, Maybe they didn't. Maybe you're listening and maybe you're like, yeah, remember Kyle? I unfortunately don't remember who said it to me. But the guy was like, our kids don't like having fun. And I said, and my response to him was, no, kids don't like stupid, boring games.
Yeah, you're picking the wrong fun.
That's not true, because I knew those kids. Yeah. I knew those kids outside of youth group. Those kids loved having fun. They loved doing things. They might just not like the things that you are telling them to do. They might not want to play Stratego, which is actually an excellent game. They might not want to play Stratego for 4 hours. But ministry should be fun. Before we move on to the next question, which what constitutes fun? Yeah. Or what is fun in youth ministry? I don't think you can talk about having joy when it's not connected to laughter. Now, it might not be bursting out laughter, to quote Mary Poppins, people laugh different ways, right? Yeah. But I don't know of somebody that goes, man, I just have joy in my life. Everything is just like, even right now, I'm just exploding with joy. Yeah. It's just, no, joy is expressive. And there are some people that genuinely need a spiritual renewal because we've forgotten how to laugh. We've forgotten how to have fun. Now, everybody doesn't have the same type of fun, but when I read words like Proverbs 16:24 says, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. When somebody shares kind words with me, man, it changes my disposition. It changes the way that then I interact with somebody. Yeah. And when I share kind words and when my intention is to share kind words with somebody, I want to have a relationship with them. I want to have fun with them. I want to enjoy them. Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart is like good medicine to a broken spirit. I remember probably one of the hardest times in my life, the lady that discipled my wife at 42 years old just suddenly passed away, just died. Wow. And we had built a deep relationship with this family, obviously through my wife, because this family and this wife had discipled my wife. Yeah. But then when we became missionaries, we lived in an apartment, connected to their house. I got to know their kids. I was around them all the time. Anytime we would go back and visit my wife's hometown, I would go over and play capture the flag with these kids or jump on the trampoline with these kids. Yeah. They would joke around that I wasn't Mary Poppins. I was Gary Poppins. I was their built-in nanny. And I was like, if I ever lose my job, even when you're 32, I will come and be your nanny. That's funny. But we would just have fun. And when their mom died and we went to go and be there for the funeral and to be there for that time, I sat there and I thought, man, I really only joke around with these kids. What do I do? Yeah. And I sat down and I thought, man, I want to weep with those who weep. I'm going to rejoice with those who rejoice. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not just going to, change. And so I, kind of was like, hey, do you guys want to play capture the flag? Yeah. And they said, actually, we were really hoping you would ask us that. Oh. And we played capture the flag. We actually never had real flags. We played little like ping pong paddles and stuff like that, but we played capture the flag. And after that, then they were like, can we jump on the trampoline? And so I went and I jumped on the trampoline. Yeah. And after that week, I think I was over at their house probably 4-5 days out of that week. The dad wrote me a note. He sent me that proverb and he said, I don't think you will ever understand the joy that it brought my heart as a dad to allow my kids to laugh and to smile under the worst days of their life. Yeah. Wow. And it's just, there may be somebody listening right now or even watching right now and go, man, that was kind of irreverent. I gotta be honest with you. I wasn't sure. No, I don't think so. I wasn't sure, but going in and saying, man, I want to minister to these people. Yeah. And sometimes, yes, ministry weeps with those who weeps, but sometimes ministry just comes alongside and is unafraid to continue to enjoy. Now, I didn't walk in and make a joke. Yeah, no. You got to be appropriate for the moment. Yeah. But fun is an opportunity. Breaking down a wall doesn't necessarily mean you're breaking down a wall to necessarily share a new truth. Maybe sometimes maybe having fun is breaking down a wall to just be an encouragement. Right. Well, and I think then we get to message time. Yeah. And how many times do we even segment that out? And do we think, okay, games are fun, message serious. Yeah. And contrast it instead of make them. As if it's not going to resound in a kid's spirit or soul if it's not serious, or it wasn't ministry unless kids are breaking down crying.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be the answer at all. Like that's the crazy thing to me is like even thinking that has to be like a mentality is like, hey, unless people are like you said, crying and breaking down, and we're having like these big moments.
Which there are moments to do that.
Absolutely. But maybe finding a balance of like, hey, we're not making jokes in serious times, but we're also not making serious in lighter conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Josh, we talked about it a little bit, but what constitutes fun in ministry?
Yeah, I think it's important that we constitute fun because it's not only game time, but it's not only events, but I think, having meals, having conversations, building relationship, I think constitutes as fun.
Okay. So are there any boundaries? Or is it just, hey, if you're going to have fun, you just do whatever you want?
Yeah, I think this is important. I think we have to have boundaries. We have to consider that there are different ages in youth ministry. Mm-hmm. We have to consider that there's different levels of what's appropriate. Morally is a word that I wrote down when I was thinking through this, but morally is maybe not necessarily, maybe that's a strong word for what I'm thinking of, but just figuring out, hey, what is appropriate for this group of kids? Mm-hmm. If I have a bunch of 8-year-olds, maybe I don't take them to go play paintball.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a bunch of 8-year-olds who are like, they're little Rambos, but.
And what might be fun for me, we've kind of hit on this a little bit, but what might be fun for me may not be fun for these kids.
Yeah. And like reliving our glory days as youth kids, it's not about us.
Well, and even Josh, okay, so we've talked about this before, but what I said over here may not be appropriate or even helpful to say it over here.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we can fall in this rut of, there was this deep, impactful thing and it made a mark over here. So therefore it's going to make a mark over here. No. That's why I think we pray and we seek the Holy Spirit and we go over, but that's also why I think we plan.
Yeah.
And you've got to know your students that what was fun for that previous senior class may not be fun for the next senior class, or what worked for the juniors and seniors may not be the way to connect with those 9th and 10th graders. There's a buddy of mine out in Texas that he's like, man, my older kids, they were into sports. They were into, and it was like, and he was an athlete. I mean, he was like, man, I was out, we were playing volleyball and I could be like, I could be spiking on them and I could be hitting that ball and throwing it as hard as I can, all these different things. He said, but then when I looked down at my 9th and 10th graders and 8th graders, he said, they were all a bunch of nerds. They're a bunch of nerds. He was like, I didn't know how to connect with them. He said, I wasn't a Star Wars fan. I wasn't a Trekkie fan. I wasn't a Marvel fan. He's like, I was a jock. I know, I felt bad for him. He's like, I was a jock and I am a jock. He's like, but I had to find ways because I was still their youth pastor.
Yeah.
And he said the natural tendency was just to hand it off to one of my leaders that they could connect with them. But the difference was I was still the youth pastor.
Yeah.
And he said, in some ways, like Paul, I had to become all things to all men.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to play Nintendo Switch. I had to learn how to, at least understand the game or, tags, whatever.
It's okay. It's okay.
You'll edit that out.
I'm not going to edit that out.
I'll leave
it. No, for me, fun. Yeah, it's fun. For me, it's the opposite though. Like in high school, I played sports, but I unfortunately let myself go a little bit here. And I have exercise-induced asthma, which I didn't realize was a thing until I got out of college.
Wow.
I played with a bunch of guys in their 50s, played basketball, and by the end of like the first 10 minutes, I couldn't get up and down the court. I had to go and sit down and be done. Wow. So that's the point I'm at. So I have a bunch of guys in my youth group who are the exact opposite. They're in football, they're playing soccer, they're playing baseball. They're all playing sports. And I have a lot of guys who like video games, but like finding that and like they might not care about Star Wars. They care about video games. So I have that connection, but finding that connection and not just making it about like, hey guys, I love playing Smash Bros. Or I love playing like, Mario Kart.
Right.
They might not care about any of that. Right. And trying to find that balance of not just assuming an entire generation is interested in your interests.
Well, and as those of us that are in leadership, it's very easy to either, again, pendulum swing here. It's very easy to either go, I'm not going to do anything that I enjoy, or we're only going to do the things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I think both can be wrong.
Sure.
I think getting stuck in both is not good.
Yeah.
For instance, growing up, I played baseball. Okay. not extremely well, but I played baseball because I loved playing baseball. I love baseball.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up playing ultimate Frisbee because I loved playing ultimate Frisbee. Now, I actually wasn't bad when I was younger and I was a little sprier. Okay. But like the guys in my neighborhood would play basketball. They'd do some different things. You know, I ran cross country. And so we had different games that we would play in our neighborhoods, running all around, and doing some of those different things. Now that I'm a camp director, there's an all-star basketball game. Okay. And prior to this, they would play ultimate Frisbee and different things like that. And out of their love for me, people would invite me, Kyle, you got to come and play with this guy. Yeah. And here's my line. Here's what I always say.
Okay.
Guys, I will come and play because I do love to play sports. I do. I really, really enjoy it. But I know I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah.
And so I look at them and I say, here's the deal. I will come and play, but I need you to understand, I'm not going to be amazing. And I'm only going, my concern is I'm going to frustrate you. So as long as you're willing to understand that, you know, either I'm going to come out and I'm going to own it.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. There were some times, and Dylan can attest to this. There were some times last year playing basketball, like I genuinely was trying. And I can't tell you that there was that the majority of the time that I was like, oh, it's just acting dumb. There were definitely times that I was acting dumb, but there were also some times that I was like, okay, I'm trying to make this basket.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I shot 100%. I missed every shot that I took, which is like frustrating and annoying to me.
Yeah.
Because
you want to be good at it.
I honestly am not that bad that I displayed. Well, clearly I am, because that's why I displayed, but I don't want to ruin the fun for somebody else. Yeah. And so I can go down and I can support that and I can cheer that on and I can even jump in for part of it.
Yeah.
But in both of those situations, it would be so easy. And you in ministry, it's so easy to make it about us. Mm-hmm. You know, well, I don't do all-nighters because I don't like doing all-nighters. Well, do your kids want to do all-nighters?
All right. So don't come at me with conviction here because I'm not interested in it because I can't stand all-nighters anymore.
Okay.
I am in bed at 11 o'clock, but I'm up at 7 o'clock every day, weekend, no matter what. And I'm outside working and doing stuff. The all-nighter kills that schedule for me.
I get it.
My youth kids hate all-nighters. They hate them.
They never want to do it. And no kid ever connected to our ministry would ever want to do an all-nighter.
No, yeah.
Listen, So what do you do with that? Let's say, okay, Reverb. Reverb is an all-night student ministries evangelistic event that Word of Life puts on. It's focused on the gospel. I cannot stand if you are listening or watching this right now and you are that youth pastor that only brings your youth group to Reverb. Shame on you. It's an event for the gospel. We've got to be inviting.
Evangelistic.
We've got to be inviting kids and giving opportunities to see students, reaching students with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Soapbox done. Yeah. Okay. But here's the deal. I'm not saying you have to do an all-nighter.
Yeah, I understand.
But what I am saying is are we asking our kids, hey, what do you want to do? And giving them the opportunity to say, hey, let's develop it. Because Josh, you may say, hey, physically, I can't do that. Physically, I can't keep up that long. Okay, but you know what I am willing to do? I'm willing to go and I'm willing to stay all the way till 10:30, 10:15, maybe even push it. And I'm willing to stay until 11. And then I'm going to make sure that there's a leader there that can step in for me. That can do this. And I'm just going to be upfront with these kids in the same way.
Well, I'll just say I'm the driver because legally you have to sleep.
Then you have to sleep, but then I'm providing an opportunity for my kids to have the fun, another case in point, inviting your kids over to your house to watch movies. That can be really dangerous. I remember one time on a retreat, when I was in high school, we convinced our leader to watch a movie that we knew was inappropriate. We set him up for complete failure. If you're a young person, because I know some of you students out there watching, number one, evaluate what you're watching, evaluate what you're putting in front of your eyes. But do not pressure your youth pastor to watch something that he shouldn't be watching. But hey, you youth pastors, you need to evaluate and to remember what you're encouraging and quoting and putting up in front of your kids.
Yeah.
Because again, even that fun goes back to age. It goes back to time. Yeah. It goes back to morality.
Yeah. We need to be appropriate. We need to be thinking through our fun. Absolutely.
But absolutely. Ministry ought to be fun. In fact, and I think I said this before, Josh, I think you ought to schedule out, maybe not once a month, maybe once a month, but I think on a regular basis, you ought to have a youth night that is just games.
Yeah. Just to have fun.
That's just fun.
Yeah.
You ought to figure out your kid's schedule and make sure that to the best of your abilities as a youth pastor, you make it out to at least one of every single one of your kids. Now, it may not be possible. You may have 150 kids, and so there's no way you can get to all their games.
Yeah.
But you and your leaders, are you finding ways to get into that kid's life? The way that you do that is fun.
Yeah.
And building relationships. I love that phrase, Josh, to break down walls, to build up lives.
Yeah. Honestly, you've given me, I feel challenged. We've talked about this before. This is like a discipleship opportunity for me. And it's always convicting to like look at, I'll sit here and talk about something and then I'll be like, I'm not even doing that.
Yeah.
And I need to.
So a couple different, you wrote down some potential problems.
Yeah.
We were going to address those. Let's just rapid fire. What are those potential problems? And then let's talk about solutions for them.
Yeah. So, one of the problem people might say is, hey, events are scary to approach. They're huge. They can be cumbersome. There's a lot of planning to go to it. That's the problem I have. Events are scary to approach.
And I would say, yes, you're right.
Yep.
And I would say this, events that you care about and events that mean something are scary and are hard to approach, which is why you shouldn't be trying to pull this thing off all on your own, right?
That's a good takeaway.
You shouldn't. Yeah. And maybe you're not, okay, so no, Mercy Umbrella gone. I'm putting it away. Here's the deal. Maybe you aren't the one to plan that event.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to trust one of your leaders that you go, I don't know a thing about airsoft. So, but this guy does.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work with him. I'm going to help him. I'm going to set him up for success. Don't be that guy that goes, well, I don't believe in this event. This is dumb. So I'm not going to participate in it all. And then it falls apart. Say, this is why we don't do it. That's just selfishness.
You're right.
But yes, events are scary and events are hard. It's anything is hard that you want to make an impact on your kids.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not the person to put it together.
Yeah. I was just going to say it's worthwhile, but I think your answer is even better. Is like, hey, maybe you bring in other people. I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Next thing someone might say is events are useless. And I think we answered this throughout the whole podcast. They're not useless.
They're not.
They're very, especially when they're intentional. And even if they're not, it's fun. That's a way to build relationships.
Now let me bring up a side question.
Okay.
Is there a point that you go, we're doing too many events?
That could be.
And you could be.
I hadn't thought about that.
It could be. I remember when I would work with youth groups, I would challenge them to have one event a month.
Yeah.
One event a month. Or to have one fun event and one service event. And just to say, hey, listen, because you can't do everything.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But if I say, okay, and maybe even because of your youth ministry, you're going to do that in one event and you're going to have some time for fun and some time for service. I remember when I was in youth group, my youth pastor, when we'd go out on trips, he would always try to find one or two activities for us to do on that missions trip or while we were at that spot, wherever it was, because he wanted to have that good balance. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Jim, thankful for you. Greg, thankful for you.
That's awesome. So the next problem someone might have is events need to be big to be impactful.
What do you think?
Well, I don't think they have to be big at all to be impactful. I think it's good to have big events, and that's where a place like Word of Life. Actually, our youth group is coming to Word of Life camps now.
Hey,
and that's because it's a big event, and maybe sometimes.
By the way, if you're not registered for camp, you need to get registered for camp. Whatever camp you're going to, preferably Word of Life, but whatever camp you're going to, you need to go to camp. You need to book it early.
Yeah, well, for Word of Life, by the time this episode comes out, it might be full. But no, I think it's important that, again, you find other people. And maybe sometimes going to a big event means that you go to a group like Word of Life or like another parachurch organization that offers those events for you.
Well, but again, back to your first thing of events are scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we talked about the whole idea of bringing somebody else in. This is what I love to do for churches, and I love to do. Listen, I want to help you accomplish what you value in a way that adds value to your ministry, but in a way that you don't feel like you have to do everything.
Yeah.
I love the fact that regularly you read through the Bible and Jesus sent his disciples out. He put the authority in their hands. And guess what? He's not here today because he's put the authority in your and my hands to go do the work of the ministry.
Amen.
Okay?
Yeah, wow.
And so,
you're right.
So God forbid that we get this kingdom-minded approach where I'm the one in control and I'm the one in charge and I've got to be the one that orders and organizes every single one of my kids' events. So guess what happens? Yeah. So what happens when they leave and they graduate?
Yeah.
And they don't know how to look to anybody else for spiritual development.
Yeah.
But again, having those different events where you go, maybe I'm overwhelmed and I need an organization like a Word of Life to come in and to put on this massive all-night student ministries event. And all I've got to worry about is getting my kids there and then getting them home.
Yep. I love, and we're not just pushing Word of Life right now. Like wherever that is, go and do that thing, because parachurch organizations, you know, that's what they're there for. And I think it's important.
But that's where I would say, and so I wrote down a couple solutions, and then we can move into small groups.
Yeah, let's do it.
Number one, make sure that you have events with a purpose. I think I know we talked about this in a prior episode, but do you know the purpose and intention of the events as to why you're having it?
Yeah.
And again, there was an event that we have done, like a sloppy obstacle course. It was awesome. But at the very, very end, somebody would get up and would give the gospel. Well, anytime I went to that event, I would talk about the messiness of sin, or the mess that sin causes. Yeah. And I would lead them to the gospel and talk, because so I made sure that even my message was on point or on purpose. Yeah. For the event. But do you have a purpose for the event? And the event may be just to have fun, just to have fellowship.
That's a purpose, though.
But it is. But that's where, again, an idea possibly would be sit down with your youth team and say, hey guys, we're going to do 2 events a month. One for silly, one for service. You know, whatever.
I love that.
Second thing I wrote down is, what did you say?
I love silly. I don't know. I said it offhanded, and now I regret it.
That's okay. I thought you said you love sin, and I was like,
silly.
Flashback to the other episode where we said, sin is the solution.
The one. No, weird. I'll leave this in just like I'm leaving yours.
Laughter is good medicine.
Yeah, we just laughed.
Laughter is good medicine. And so make sure that you're finding ways to laugh with your kids, to laugh with your family, to laugh with your spouse. Yeah. I want to be around people that make me laugh. I want to be around people that enjoy. Again, make sure it's appropriate. Make sure, but
absolutely.
Jesus brings joy. And again, I don't think joy is found like this. Sure. Oh, victory in Jesus. Yeah. My Savior.
And having joy doesn't always mean that we're happy when bad things are happening. Just to clarify.
And I don't have to be the center of attention. And so if my joy, is like, everybody make sure you look at me. Again, I think you got to evaluate that and, but we're not.
That's not this episode.
We should have meaningful and memorable events. We should have meaningful and memorable youth nights.
Yeah.
Why? Because emotions mark memories.
Yeah.
That's why I think kids love Campfire Dedicated. That's why I think we love moments and we remember moments. Man, when I was pouring my heart out to Jesus. But can I tell you, I also remember those times that I was laughing so hard my side hurt.
Yeah. And we look back and we look for those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And so are we finding ways to create opportunities for those things in our ministry nights and ministry events? And then I wrote this: we don't tend to give ourselves to things that we don't like and enjoy. And so why should ministry be fun? Because I give myself to things that I like and I enjoy. And my students give themselves to things that they like and that they enjoy. Yeah. And so if you're calling kids to a relationship with Jesus that's not fun, and then we wonder why when they graduate and they choose not to come back to church, you know why? Because they don't want to. Yeah. Because they're not connected to it, because they don't like it. They don't feel like they can be themselves. Nobody broke down walls. They built up walls. They said, no, you can't be loud. No, you can't be noisy. No, you can't have fun. No, you can't laugh. You need to sit here. You need to act a certain way and be a certain way. And I came across this quote. In fact, I'm going to share it in chapel, but Paul David Tripp said this. He said, sometimes we think we're a better creator than the creator. When we try to get people to look, no, stop being that way. Now, are there things to work on? Absolutely. But sometimes we try to conform people to our image rather than how God created them.
Yeah. It's one more way that we try and be in control.
That's crazy. Yeah. But yes, Josh, I think ministry ought to be fun. Hey, we'd love to hear from you guys. We're about to move into small group. Yeah. But we'd love to hear from you. What are ways that you have made ministry fun? What are some fun things? We've shared some funny stories in small group. Yeah. But hey, Josh, so you asked the question the other day on our social media. Yeah. What was the question that you asked?
Yeah. So guys, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, our social media accounts, because that's where we're going to put up these questions. You can answer them in our stories, and then we will share some of them on the episode. So absolutely. We had a couple of things. The question was, what's a time in youth ministry that you thought, oh no, I'm going to be fired?
Okay, so we got some great responses. Thank you so much for all of you that responded.
I laughed out loud sitting in my living room.
One person said, fundraiser dinner, we ran out of food, and they had to announce it.
Yeah. Like I love how they wrote this too. Fundraiser dinner, ran out of food, had to announce.
It's like okay, you could say that that's poor planning, but at the same time, it might not have been.
The fundraiser went so well.
You didn't tell everybody to take only 2 rolls, and they took 7. You know,
Yeah.
but
Or like when you have a pizza party and the kids grab 4 slices of pizza and only eat 2 and throw the other 2 out.
I'm telling you,
Nothing grinds my gears.
2.5 people per pizza. 2.5 people per pizza. If you just think about it that way, 2.5 people per pizza.
So you end up throwing pizzas
somebody said this during dodgeball. I decided to kick the ball, and I nailed the pastor's son in the face.
He fell. I'm assuming I wrote he failed.
He fell, bloody nose.
Oh man.
Could you just imagine? Listen. Okay. Think about it. You know there's that kid you wanted to kick in the face with the dodgeball. like here's the deal. There are times.
Then you should be fired. You can't kick the ball at a kid on purpose.
Listen, when you're like, you always throw the dodgeball at me. What's the deal? I need a checkup from the neck up.
You might need to talk to somebody.
Wow.
Man.
I mistakenly got slime stuck in one of my teen's hair, and it took an hour to get it all out.
Oh man. Yeah, you're out.
But golly.
Well, those are some crazy stories. But we had some great conversation.
We have.
Talking about having fun in youth ministry and the purpose of it.
Hey, one last story as we're ending, because a guy said to you, somebody connected with your parents that knew me, Zach Subra.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Zach Subra.
Shout out to Zach.
I love you. So Zach toilet papered somebody's house. We grabbed all the toilet paper from that house and took it back to Zach's.
Yeah.
And they caught us.
Oh man.
It was a devastating moment in my life because, listen, if you're going to go toilet paper somebody's house, you got to be quiet, okay? You got to have a plan. You got to be quiet. And they weren't. They were like, hey, let's put it. And I was like, oh my goodness. So you just got to be smart.
Well, hey, shout out Zach Supra.
Shout out to toilet papering your kids' houses.
Man. All right, guys. Well, hey, keep having fun in youth ministry. Make sure the main thing stays the main thing. Share the gospel, build connection.
Break down walls to build up lives. Look for opportunities to connect and laugh with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys.
Josh, I had fun with you today.
I had fun too. I'm glad we didn't do a heavy topic.
Yeah, we did.
We did a fun topic.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is a pretty big one.
It is good. It's important still.
That's right.
Catch you later.
Like stacking chairs.
Oh, yeah.